Hello, everyone, and inside today's episode of Locked On Canadiens, we have some final pre-draft thoughts, and it is a very special pre-draft Tuesday mailbag because it can never be on Friday anymore. All that and more inside today's show.
For Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 650 of Locked On Canadiens. We are your daily Montreal Canadiens podcast, and as always, thank you for making us your first listen. If you're listening to this on your phone, on your way to work, or at home, or whatever, or if you're watching on YouTube, which we appreciate you, make sure you subscribe. We're closing in on 1,300 followers. From both of us, a very happy post-Canada Day weekend, a post-4th of July weekend in the United States. Hopefully you mixed in a water and stayed hydrated as you drank all weekend and partied at the cottage or wherever, and you didn't lose any fingers with fireworks. I am one of your hosts. I am Scott Matlin. I'm joined, as always, by the active stick, Laura Sabat. Laura, it is Tuesday. We are 48 hours from the NHL Draft, and we haven't announced this on the show because the news came after our last episode. We will be at the draft in some capacity this year. And first of all, how are you doing 48 hours from the draft as the Wright versus Slafkovsky debate rages to new unnecessary levels?
So before this segment is over, I want to answer the question about whether or not we'd be disappointed if they pick Slafkovsky. But first, I will say that Scott has credentials to cover the draft in person, thanks to Eyes on the Prize. And we're so excited for that. So literally, like, one of us will be there in a professional capacity. For those of you who have been asking, I will not be at the Bell Center. I have lots of social obligations. I will try and say hi to as many people as I can because I'll try and be around downtown. I have a wedding. My parents are visiting. It's a long story. So I will not necessarily be around. So please, please, please don't be offended if I can't say hi. I promise I'll try my best. But if I don't, it's not because I don't love you.
It was a wild, was it Friday? Thursday, Friday. I can't remember.
I think it was Friday because I was off, but it was, I think, the long weekend here.
I can't remember. The last few days working in a beer shop have all melded together into one haze of 30 packs and 12 packs of White Claw. However, putting that aside for now, we've got more Wright versus Slafkovsky debates. Elliot Friedman mentioned the Canadiens have done their due diligence on Logan Cooley. They are looking to trade up, and I just kind of wanted to just do some final pre-draft thoughts because we do have a special guest lined up for Wednesday and Thursday because I will be on the road starting Wednesday. I'm going to AEW in Rochester to watch some professional wrestling because I'm an adult. And then Carly and myself are on the road to come up to Montreal on Thursday. So we will be recording after the first round of the draft, assuming nothing insane happens as we're attempting to leave and go home. My biggest thought is we've heard the Canadiens are looking to trade up into the top portion of the draft again and make a splash. And I have come to terms with what I think would be an acceptable thing is that if they are trading first overall to move up and try and figure out a way to draft second, third, and they're going Slafkovsky and Logan Cooley, I think that it's more than acceptable. I like Logan Cooley as a player a lot. I still want them to pick Shane Wright first overall, but if they're going to trade up, I assume they're trying to draft both Slafkovsky and a center at the same time. That would make the most sense to me. My biggest thought is I really want this all to stop. I'm so tired. And Bob McKenzie put out a 40 tweet thread. I'm hyperbolizing a little bit here, in which when he put out his ranking of who would pick Slafkovsky versus Wright, everyone picked Wright earlier in the season. And now it was a 5-4-1 vote for Slafkovsky, Wright, and Logan Cooley. What invalidated a lot of how that matters to me is they did not take into account team needs when drafting. And my thought for that is then none of this matters. If you are the Montreal Canadiens, you currently do not need a winger that cannot score in his own league. You need a center that can play center in the NHL today. And right now that feels like Shane Wright. And we know we've had this debate. We've talked about it with Jerome Berube a little bit. We've talked about it with Tony Ferrari. We've talked about it with Scouching, with Byron Bader, with David St. Louis. We've talked about this ad nauseum.
Even Maple has an opinion. I can hear Maple squeaking in the background.
My
Even
apologies.
the dog has an opinion.
She is chewing on a moose to celebrate Canada Day. She is named after a maple leaf after all. But like, we're both so tired of this.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to say one thing though. Here's the thing. Okay. I think that it's been going on, and it's unlikely that the Canadiens will get 1 and 2, right? New Jersey's putting out feelers. Montreal's putting out feelers. Everybody is playing a game right now. Everybody is playing a con right now, because what's essentially happening is Montreal is going to try to get the best, I guess, base for their rebuild as possible. What New Jersey is trying to get is the most they can possibly get, whether it is Slafkovsky, Wright, Juraj, a trade. They're just trying to get the most out of that second overall pick. Everybody's trying to move up. Everybody's trying to make a splash. This draft is not overwhelmingly amazing enough that you're losing out if you don't necessarily have a top 5 pick. I mean, you want a top 5 pick. I'm saying maybe after that top 5 pick, right? Like, so anybody who's like in that like 5 to 25 mark is probably willing to talk trade, right? So I think Ottawa's made it known that they're shopping their pick. I think what's going on right now is a lot of gamesmanship. But at the end of the day, I trust the Montreal Canadiens to make the right decision for their organization at this time. And people keep thinking, oh, you know what? Like, I bet they pick Slafkovsky. I can't wait to see your face. Here's the thing. I will not be disappointed. I trust this organization to do what is right for the team. Do I prefer that they pick Shane Wright? Absolutely, for many reasons, particularly because since I've been a fan of this team, that center depth has been a big question mark. That's all I have to say. So, like, no, I won't be devastated. I won't be disappointed. You don't need a camera on my face if they go up there and say first overall is going to be Juraj Slafkovsky. I will one day learn to pronounce his name. They might pick him just because I can't pronounce his name. Anyway, end of the day, I trust this organization. Also, I'm feeling very, very strange right now because I moved some lighting around in my room. There seems to be a dark shadow on my face. I look evil right now. But all of this to say is that, yes, we prefer that the Canadiens pick Shane Wright. But if they pick Slafkovsky, we trust that they have a plan in mind. And if they pick Slafkovsky, it's probably because they moved up.
Yeah, we are not dislikers of Juraj Slafkovsky. We're dislikers of some of the narratives and the reasons why people are pushing that narrative, and that it seems to be just because they must be correct. It's not about the player. And I don't have time for that. I don't care about that. It's not rooted in analysis. I have no issue with them picking Slafkovsky. I think Wright is the correct pick. And like we've said in another episode, if they pick Slafkovsky, they have to pick a center later on in the draft. That is going to put to rest our pre-draft thoughts. We are going to have a guest on for Wednesday's episode and the episode you will hear on Thursday, the day of the draft. Yes, Laura.
If any crazy breaking news happens, I will record a bonus episode, but our full-length episodes are like pre-recorded for this week. But if they make a trade, if something happens, if they hire somebody, I will record a bonus episode.
You've just jinxed it, by the way. They're going to drop so much news tomorrow on July 4th that it... Yes, tomorrow's July 4th. Yes, I know what date it is. We're recording this on Sunday for what it's worth.
That's what I'm saying. It's pre-recorded, but if any crazy news happens, I will have recorded a bonus episode.
Yes, we will do our part to make sure you are up to date. And now we are going to launch into a special Tuesday mailbag, not a Friday mailbag, not a Monday mailbag, because we keep shuffling this around because of so much happening. And that's all coming up next. But first, today, we got to talk to you about Built Bar. Built Bar is one of our longtime sponsors and one of our favorite sponsors. They are the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. And I'm here to talk to you about Coconut Brownie Chunk Puff. It is a protein-infused marshmallow. It's got low calorie, low sugar, high in protein, covered in 100% real chocolate. They are ideal first thing in the morning when you need that pick-me-up on the way to work. Midway through your day, you need that little boost of energy and that little kick of protein to help get you through there. Or you're coming home from the gym or you went for a walk and you want to kind of rest up and rejuvenate. Protein helps keep those muscles fresh. Built Bar has you covered. And the best part about Built Puffs, they taste amazing. And because they're actually good for you, perfect treat for a craving anytime. Stick them in the fridge, stick them in the freezer, and you get an extra special summer treat. They're nice and cold. So go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. That's built.com, promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off your order. And as always, thank you for making Locked On Canadiens your first listen every day. The draft is right around the corner, and the local hosts and the draft experts are going to have all the analysis you need for day one and day two. We're going to be live after the draft is over. We're going to have an episode for you. We're going to have all the reaction, regardless of who they pick, here at Locked On Canadiens and on YouTube. So please make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcast, or like I said, on this YouTube channel. It is time for a very special Tuesday mailbag. It is post-holiday, and we wanted to come up with something easy for content because we are both very tired after working all weekend on various things. As always, if you want to send mailbag questions, we'll probably be back to a normal mailbag next week after free agency on Friday. So we will have, I'm sure, a ton of questions at LO_Canadiens on Twitter, LockedOnCanadiens@gmail.com, in the YouTube comments. Just don't be a jerk. Simple as that. Laura, what do we have in the mailbag this week?
So usually I go email first or YouTube first, but this time around I'm going to go to a Twitter question that we received last week, but we received it right after we stopped recording, and this is from Immortal Dark. It's 3 questions. 1, what are your thoughts on Price's situation? 2, do you see him returning, or is he effectively retiring like Weber? And 3, do you believe the Habs are going to organically tank to try and get a top 3 pick next year, or do you believe they're trying to be competitive next year?
My thought on the Carey Price situation is tough because I don't think he wants to go out kind of like this, but I would also not be surprised if at the end of this season he comes in, they look at his knee and they go, guess what? It's not good enough to play right now. I don't think he wants to go out like Shea Weber. I think Carey Price is far too competitive for that. Not to say Shea Weber wasn't, but I think Weber played through God only knows what that he could not suit up and play this season. I think Carey Price is going to do everything he can to get back between the pipes because that's who Carey Price is. He's competitive. He wants to win. He wants to win a cup, that's for sure. And as for organically tanking, I think they're going to kind of see how it goes. Elliot Friedman and 31 Thoughts said that the team wants to be more competitive next year, which is not a high bar to cross considering how uncompetitive they were this year. I do not think they're a playoff team. I think they will likely pick somewhere in the top 12, and then from there, they will kind of launch into that with their younger prospects coming to roost, more high-end draft picks coming in. They will try and be that wild card fringe playoff team and launch that into hopefully regular playoff appearances from there. I don't think they're going to blow it up like this. I think you're going to see a lot of pieces go this offseason, and that's going to end the sell-off, and it's going to be a lot of prospects, a lot of younger guys. It might not be pretty, but it's not going to be an outright tank like this past year.
Next question comes from Curtis on YouTube. Mailbag question. If the Habs are to trade up in the draft, which team do you believe will be most likely their trade partner? And which team would you like to see them do business with most?
I kind of want to see them do business with the Oilers because I think Ken Holland's an idiot.
I was going to say Flyers because that number 5 pick is what I've got my eye on.
I agree with you on that. I also do not think Chuck Fletcher is a very smart GM. Minnesota will back me up on that. I look at it and I go, there's pieces there, but I can't see the Flyers trading their top 5 pick because they need serious help. And they're looking to sell off and retool some pieces with John Tortorella behind the bench. Ottawa's making a lot of noise, and I don't know whether I think it's a trap or it's just too easy. And I know that sounds kind of mean, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. Arizona's hit or miss. I'm very curious to see if there's a team in that mid-range there between like 12 and 20 that they're going to try to move up to because there's a lot of variance in there, and there's a lot of names they could get their hands on. I think trading, like you said, for second overall is a little bit of
It's going to be hard.
It's a pipe dream.
Yeah, it's going to be hard. Like, I don't think, people get yelled at us when we say that it's unlikely, but the truth is, statistically, it is quite unlikely. There are so many other teams who want that pick. It's not just the Habs. And I love what the Habs are doing right now with like putting out rumors and leaks and all of that stuff. Like, I know they're playing a long game, but I still don't think that New Jersey will trade the pick to the Montreal Canadiens. That's what I think. Anyway, I really want a top 5 pick again. I looked at it and I was like, Seattle, I don't think they're going to do it. Like, they're trying to build through their own draft. They're trying to I don't see it happening. Arizona wants, high-end players. New Jersey, probably not going to trade to the Habs, but the Flyers, that's something that you can get. So that's what I would like to see. So we've got another question on YouTube before we move on to our next segment.
Ooh, hold on. I found who I want to trade with. Yeah, at number 14 overall, the Winnipeg Jets.
Ooh.
They have a team that is very unsettled right now. And it might be we trade a pick and get Pierre-Luc Dubois out of it because he's rumored to want to leave right now. And this is going to bite me so hard, is that I don't think Kevin Cheveldayoff is a good GM either. But there
are 3 GMs you named that now are like, there's a target on your back, Scott.
I'm going to run into one of them at the draft, and it's going to be super awkward. They're like, hey, I heard your podcast. And I'm just like, what? No. Anyways, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Your credential says Habs EOTP, and it does not say Locked On Canadiens, so we won't get into trouble.
We're going to find out if they spelled my name right on it, too. They might get me confused with another guy who doesn't actually exist.
Which would be the first time your name was spelled correctly, I think, if they do get it right. All right, let me do this one more question before we move on to the next segment. Mimo asks, thoughts on Anderson and the Oilers' second, which is around the 59th pick, for Puljujrvi and the Oilers' first. Ideally, I'd send a third or a pair of thirds, but I doubt Edmonton does it for that. So we're giving Edmonton back their first?
No, we didn't get a first from Edmonton. We got a second from Edmonton in the Brett Kulak trade.
First.
Their Edmonton's first round pick would be coming to us with Jesse Puljujärvi, with Josh Anderson going the other way. And my thought with this is, and I know if the Canadiens trade for Jesse Puljujärvi, we're going to have such a headstrong debate about this, like we did with Lars Eller and other players, is that just because the points aren't there does not mean they aren't doing things efficiently. Jesse Puljujärvi is a very good offensive generator without the finish to go behind it. No pun intended. Andrew Berkshire said it on Twitter. He'd be a phenomenal fit with Caulfield and Nick Suzuki on that top line. Josh Anderson's a guy really without a place right now, but he's also unique. I feel like Anderson would be a loved piece in Edmonton, and he's probably one of the only guys to be able to keep up with McDavid speed-wise. I'm not opposed to it. It helps alleviate some of the cap crunch. Jesse Puljujärvi can get a midterm contract out of it. I don't hate that idea. Jesse Puljujärvi is someone I would like to trade for. I want to make that clear. He is someone I have had my eye on for a while now, and is a name that I really enjoy. We do have more questions. We're going to wrap those up in our last segment. Remember, tweet us at LO_Canadiens or LockedOnCanadiens@gmail.com. And when we come back, we're going to get to all your final questions and then bid you adieu. But first, today's show is also brought to you by RockAuto.com. There's so many makes and models of cars. It can be difficult to keep up, and let alone going into a chain store, trying to find the part you need specifically for your car. It can be expensive, it can be intimidating, and it can just feel downright frustrating. Now, from the comfort of your own home, on your computer, on your phone, you can go to rockauto.com, look up everything, and save anything from 30, 50 to even 100% on parts compared to your chain or local dealership. I'm telling you, you want rugs? They got rugs. You want a fuel filler cap? They got fuel filler cap. You want brakes? My friend, they have brakes. All you got to do is go to rockauto.com right now, check out everything you need. And when you're done, write Locked On in there. How did you hear about us box so they know we sent you? Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. RockAuto.com. We are back finishing up the mailbag. I apologize. My dog is squeaking a moose in the background. I cannot take it from her because I am recording a podcast. She means well. She just wants to be part of the show. She is the main character in this podcast. It's either the cat meowing or the dog squeaking something. We are back to finish up the Friday mailbag. If you want to tweet us your questions at LO_Canadiens for our return to Friday after free agency, LockedOnCanadiens@gmail.com, or in the YouTube comments, please and thank you. Laura, what else do we have in the mailbag?
So for those of you on YouTube can see me on my phone. I'm frantically scrolling through all my screenshots. Our friend Robert Rice, a good friend from Eyes on the Prize, or back in the day, Eyes on the Prize. Mailbag Q. Hughes makes a move and gets a pick between 10 or 15. Between 10 to 15. Who's the choice that gets you doing cartwheels or just makes you cringe?
Doing cartwheels,
Brad Lambert.
Brad Lambert's up there, Pavel Mintyukov, Denton Matechuk are up there as names that I would really, really like. If somehow Frank Nazar falls at all, he's someone I've really liked since the start of the draft there. Moving up, there are a lot of names. Lambert could go either way. And we've talked about this with Scouching and with Tony Ferrari in that he has the tools. All of them are there. Just something hasn't clicked quite yet. So I haven't really looked at people that I've been like afraid of so far in the draft, but it's been mostly I'm like, what do we have? What do we like? Towards the end, I'm a little weary of a guy like Seamus Casey, who has all this offensive talent, but not the defensive or the hockey IQ to go with it. When we talked about with David St. Louis, Philip Michar, who has all this puck handling skill, but not everything to go along with it yet. As you get further in the draft, they become less polished, which is not a fault of theirs. There's a reason they're not going first overall. If everyone was perfect, it'd be Shane Wright is competing with Liam Olgren to go first overall, and that's just not the case.
So I don't know. For me, I'm not as well versed in the busts or like the people that like there's question marks about. So I wouldn't really in the moment be able to decide, but I don't know. There's tons of people. You know what? Whoever Ottawa's going to pick, that's who I would not want. That's my answer.
I do have a name, and I think we talked about this. I can't remember if it was Scouching or Tony Ferrari, but we talked about Connor Geekie, who skates like he's trying to put his foot through the ice. He's big.
I think it was Scouching.
Yes, he's a big kid, and there's the talent there. It's can he get that level? Cutter Gauthier is also a name that I'm kind of,
about.
Yeah, there's a lot of good names basically in here. It's just a matter of can the Canadiens help them reach their next level? And that's kind of where it's at. We don't know yet. So I don't want to pass judgment on any of these guys until we see what the Canadiens' plan is for prospect development from here on out.
So, Habs Fan for Life wants to know, if they acquire the number 2 pick, what would it realistically cost, assuming they take right number 1 and they don't take Slafkovsky? Who would they take at number 2? Would love to see Cooley, but I think they'd go Nemitz or Juraj if they get that number 2 pick.
I can't help but think if they get the number 2 pick, they're just taking Juraj Slafkovsky anyways. I don't dislike the idea of taking one of those 2 defensemen, though, who could step in and presumably be in the NHL this season. I don't dislike the idea of any of that. But if you're going to take a defenseman, I think you're trading for 3, 4, or 5, not 2, which lessens the price a little bit, but you're still paying a good sum. You're probably saying goodbye to a prospect, a higher end prospect in your pool there, plus 26th overall and maybe something else to make it worth their while. And it's hard because this management team's been here for what now? About 6 months, give or take, a little more
Something
than that.
like that, yeah. Well, Gorton's been a little bit longer than 6 months, but Hughes
about that time here where they've had to do a lot of analysis on a lot of guys in a season where there's been COVID delays, there's been serious injuries. I personally am not super comfortable with them hammering into the prospect pool to move up and get someone that they might not have seen as much of. But I think you're talking a high-end prospect and 26th overall if you're moving up. But if they get one of those defensemen, I think that kind of helps alleviate the pressure to make this rebuild faster right now. I'm interested in it. I'm just very curious. I don't think they're going to get 2, but anywhere from like 5 to 10 I can see happening.
We've got a couple of the miscellaneous questions. One from our friend DF Pendries, host of the Canadiens Time brand new podcast. It's been, I think, a few episodes, 2 or 3. So check that out, Canadiens Time. Since the pre-draft talk has gone on so long and people are getting into so many fights over it, what is your favorite bird?
I loved, or I do still love, red-tailed hawks. Every now and then there's one that used to fly through the neighborhood by where my parents lived, and they are majestic as hell. They also sometimes leave squirrels in the backyard in terrifying manner. I also love owls. I've never seen an owl in the wild, but being able to hear owls hooting in the trees and everything is very calming. And like seeing them sometimes at zoos or aviaries, and they stretch out their wings, and they're just these big majestic birds that also, if you pet them properly, they kind of like close their eyes and smile, is super adorable. So great horned owl, I think is going to be my final answer on this one.
When I was in middle school, we had teams and we were named after certain birds, and I was a hawk. So that was always my favorite bird, even though I didn't at the time even know what a hawk looked like. But falcons are really cool, actually. So I grew up in the Middle East, and there's some really, really cool falcons. There's 2 questions left. They're from our nemesis. Are you ready?
Fine.
The first one is, which British actor were you most surprised to learn was British because their American accent was that good?
Hugh Laurie.
Christian Bale.
Christian Bale's British?
Yeah.
Carly from the other room just went, yes. Like, she's upset with me.
Okay, there's this, like, I think he was winning a Golden Globe or an Emmy or something. He was winning something. He gets up there to do a speech, and everybody starts looking at each other like, what? It's amazing. Check it out. Audience realizes Christian Bale is British. And then finally, has Scott mentally prepared himself for the possibility that the Habs trade their first-round pick for some locker room presence guy, so that way he doesn't have a complete breakdown while covering the draft as an official media member?
I don't know, Will.
I don't. Will.
Here's the thing is, if I wanted to mentally prepare myself for my team to do stupid things, I would cheer for the Detroit Red Wings, who kept Jeff Blashill around for 3 extra seasons for some godforsaken reason. I have mentally prepared myself. I am always prepared for the worst when it comes to the Montreal Canadiens. I've been doing this. I've been covering the team almost 9 seasons now. I have come to always expect the worst possible thing to happen. That's just how this team works. That's how fandom works. If you expect nothing, you can't be disappointed unless your team does something stupid, and then it's unexpected. But that's an entirely different road. I have been prepared for this basically since they got the first overall pick and the whole Slafkovsky nonsense started.
And that's it for our mailbag questions.
As always, folks, if you want to send us questions, we are at LO_Canadians on Twitter, LockedOnCanadians@gmail.com, Locked On Canadians on YouTube. If you want to tweet stuff to Laura and myself, just don't be a jerk. Laura's at The Active Stick. I am at Scott Matla. We are very excited. We have a very special guest episode coming for you on Wednesday and Thursday, and then we will come to you after the draft, where the Montreal Canadiens have 2 first-round picks. It is very exciting. We cannot wait. It's been quite the journey through this season. Remember, Dominique Ducharme was a Stanley Cup finalist about a year ago at this point. So everything changes very, very quickly. We are very excited. And thank you for making us your first listen of the day. When you're done, please check out Locked On NHL, where the Locked On experts give you all the news and details in a 30-minute podcast on all things NHL all year long. Subscribe to them wherever you get your podcasts like you will with us. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you all next time.